now we're going to look at Daniel honored God. This would be on, if I was outlining it, this is point 3. Daniel honored God. So let's begin with Daniel showed concern for the wise men. Do you know you can't really honor God if you don't have a concern for other people? God always has concern for other people. So I'll do verse 24 because it's only one verse. Therefore Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus to him, do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king the, oh, here comes our word again, interpretation. You see it? Okay, but the key here is he's got concern for the wise men. You cannot be an effective Christian if you don't have concern for the lost. They're bound for destruction. As surely as these wise men are bound for destruction, so are the lost of our era. So we got, I'm sorry, what?
I contrasted that thought in my lesson to the urgency for us to preach the gospel, go into all the world, preach the gospel. The message of salvation versus the message of condemnation that God is trying to get us to see.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Doesn't this tie in pretty well with Matthew 22:37? You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest command. The second is you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah, you can't really love God if you don't love men. Yeah, you know, exactly right. Okay, Samuel, go ahead and read 24 to 30. I'm sorry, I already read 24, so read 25 through 30, excuse me.
All right. Then Arioch hurriedly brought Daniel into the king's presence and spoke to him as follows. I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can make the interpretation known to the king. The king said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation? Daniel answered before the king and said, as for the mystery about which the king has inquired, neither wise men, conjurers, magicians, nor diviners are able to declare it to the king. However, there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will take place in the later days. This was your dream and the vision in your mind while on your bed. As for you, O king, while on your bed, your thoughts turn to what would take place in the future. And he who reveals mysteries has made known to you what will take place. But as for me, this mystery has not been revealed to me for any wisdom residing in me more than in any other living man, but for the purpose of making the interpretation known to the king, and that you may understand the thoughts of your mind.
All right, now again, first of all, go back and pick up. We already saw interpretation, verse 24. Interpretations in verse 25. Interpretation in verse 26. In verse 27, we got the word secret. In verse 28, we've got reveals and secrets. In verse 29, we got reveals, secrets. In verse 30, we've got secret, revealed, and interpretation. You see that? It's all through this chapter, you know, over and over and over again. And Daniel never hesitates to say, God's the one that knows secrets. God's the one that can reveal the interpretation, not me. And again, brethren, what we need to realize, too many times, preachers say, what's wrong with me that I can't get people to respond to the gospel? I'll tell you what's wrong. The emphasis is on me. What's wrong with me? No, it's the word of God that will cause people to obey. The seed is the word. Isn't that what Luke 8:11 says? The seed is the word. And 1 Corinthians chapter 3 says God brings the increase. So my job is to get the seed down, put the water on it, and get out of the way. In a sense of the word. Now, I've got to put the seed down, I've got to put the water on it. And, sometimes you got to water more than others. This past year, if you wanted to keep your garden, you had to water about every day because we didn't have rain for, I don't know, 3 months, something like that. It's a long time. My grass just went dormant. It went into winter mode and it stayed there, never came out. I didn't have to mow for weeks and weeks and weeks, because no rain. See, so we've got to make sure we put down the water, true enough, but God's going to bring the increase. So if there's no increase, it's not your fault or my fault. I'm not saying it's God's fault. I'm just saying God will work through the word to bring about the end he desires. That's the point. Okay, so that's a sidelight, I guess. Daniel made it clear that only God could tell men's dreams and their meaning. We already saw that. The dream had to do with, now watch the word there, with the latter days. See that in verse 28? God, he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. That is a key expression in the Old Testament.